A revolver owner steps up to the firing line, wraps their thumb around the cylinder, pulls the trigger. In one instant, hot gas, traveling at thousands of pounds of pressure, cuts through skin and bone. This happens more often than you think. Today we're revealing shocking truths about revolvers that most owners never learn. Some will save your fingers. Others will save your life. And number one, it might change everything you thought you knew. Revolvers have been around for over 170 years. Yet the firearms community keeps spreading myths that put people in danger. From Hollywood nonsense to gun shop tales, revolver mythology runs deep. These aren't small mistakes. These are beliefs that cause injuries, damage guns, and waste money. We're about to separate fact from fiction. Let's count down 12 truths that will shock even experienced revolver owners. Truth number 12. Revolvers do malfunction. Starting at number 12, the biggest myth of all. Revolvers never jam. Wrong. Dead wrong. Revolvers malfunction all the time. Firearms expert Daryl Bolka documented extensive real-world testing. Under pressure testing, revolvers fail regularly. Greg Ellifritz from Active Response Training confirmed these findings. The data is clear. Revolvers break. How do they fail? High primers can jam the cylinder rotation. Unburned powder gets under the extractor star and prevents it from retracting. Broken springs render the gun useless. The crane can loosen. Cylinder releases get stuck. Cylinder locks break. When a revolver malfunctions, fixing it is harder than clearing a semi-auto jam. Unlike an automatic pistol where you can tap rack bang, revolver failures often require tools and a gunsmith. That simple reliability advantage everyone talks about, it doesn't exist. Every mechanical device can fail. Revolvers are no exception. The key is maintenance and inspection. Don't trust your life to a myth. Truth number 11. The cylinder gap is dangerous. Number 11 will save your fingers. The cylinder gap shoots sideways. Every revolver has a small gap between the cylinder and barrel. This gap needs to exist so the cylinder can rotate freely. A typical gap measures 6 to 7 thousandths of an inch. Sounds tiny, right? Watch a slow-motion video of a Smith & Wesson 500 firing. That gap releases a massive blast of hot gas and debris. The pressure depends on the cartridge. A .38 Special runs 17,000 psi. A .357 Magnum hits 35,000 psi. A 500 Smith & Wesson reaches 65,000 psi. Put your finger in front of that gap. The consequences are severe. Light burns with smaller calibers, deep cuts with magnums, complete finger destruction with the big bores. This isn't theoretical. Emergency rooms see these injuries regularly. The fix is simple. Never put any body part forward of the cylinder. Your support hand thumb must stay behind the gap. No exceptions. This is revolver safety rule number 1 that many owners never learn. Truth number 10. Timing issues are common. Truth number 10 is about something called timing. Most revolver owners have never heard of it. Timing means the cylinder aligns perfectly with the barrel when the gun fires. About 20 parts work together to make this happen. They must operate at exactly the right micro-instant. When timing gets out of whack, bad things occur. A revolver goes out of time when the cylinder doesn't rotate fully and lock before the hammer falls. The hand pushes the ratchet. The cylinder stop clicks into the notch. This should happen just before the hammer drops. If these events don't sync up correctly, you have timing problems. Signs your revolver has timing issues? Unexplainable accuracy problems, failures to fire, sloppy fitment that's getting worse. You might hear the cylinder stop click, but it hasn't actually seated into the notch. You can manually twist the cylinder that last little bit and hear it click home. How do you check timing? Slowly pull the trigger in double action mode. Listen for 2 distinct clicks. The first is the cylinder stop releasing. The second is it dropping back into the next notch. That second click must happen before the hammer falls. Do this for every chamber. Your gun might be out of time on just one cylinder. Fixing timing requires a professional. Don't mess with it yourself unless you have proper training. A worn hand usually needs replacement. Sometimes the ratchet cogs are worn. Let a qualified gunsmith handle it. Truth number 9. Lead shaving is real. Number 9 explains those tiny stinging cuts on your forearms. Your revolver is spitting lead. When the cylinder isn't perfectly aligned with the barrel, the forcing cone shaves metal off the bullet as it jumps the gap. This happens due to minor misalignment or poor timing. Sometimes a rough forcing cone causes it. Symptoms include stinging specks on your forearms during shooting, lead specks on your benchmates, smeared lead on the frame window where the cylinder sits. These metal particles fly sideways at high speed. They're hot, they hurt. The fix requires checking timing and alignment with a range rod. Inspect the forcing cone and crown for damage. Verify you're using the correct bullet diameter for your cylinder throats. Sometimes the crimp on your ammunition is wrong. Sometimes the bullet is undersized. Don't ignore lead shaving. It means something is wrong. Left unchecked, it damages your gun and potentially injures people around you on the range. Truth number 8. The gap costs you velocity. Truth number 8 reveals what that cylinder gap is stealing from you. Power. Every revolver loses velocity through the cylinder gap. Testing by ballistics. By the inch proves this conclusively. For each 1,000th of an inch of gap, you lose about 1.5% velocity. A normal revolver with a 6,000th inch gap loses about 9% velocity from the gap. Add another 1% loss from the cylinder throats. Total velocity loss? 10%. The math is brutal. Take a .45 Colt pushing 850 feet per second. Increase the gap from 6,000ths to 8,000ths. You lose an additional 25 feet per second. That's why the Russian Nagant M1895 revolver sealed the gap. It cammed the cylinder forward against the forcing cone. Result? 50 to 150 feet per second more velocity. Plus, you can suppress it. Most shooters don't need to worry about this, but understanding it explains why revolvers produce lower velocities than semi-autos with the same barrel length. Truth number 7. Screws come loose. Number 7 is embarrassingly simple, yet it stops more revolvers than people realize. Screws unscrew themselves. An extractor rod that unscrews brings your gun to a halt. A yoke screw that backs out makes the cylinder wobbly. A side plate screw that loosens can cause all kinds of chaos. These aren't rare occurrences. They happen regularly to shooters who don't check their guns. The fix is dead simple. Revolver shooters should routinely check and tighten screws with a screwdriver that fits properly. Do this during maintenance and before shooting activities. Regular inspections prevent most screw problems. On older Smith & Wesson designs, installing a side plate screw where the yoke screw goes causes disaster. The cylinder and yoke assembly can slide forward off the frame. One wrong screw in one wrong hole destroys your gun's function. Check your screws. It takes 2 minutes. It prevents hours of frustration and potential danger. Truth number 6. Springs break more than you think. Truth 6 is about the hidden weak point in every revolver. Springs. A broken mainspring stops your hammer from falling. A broken sear spring prevents trigger reset. A broken trigger return spring locks up the action. A broken rebound slide spring, firing pin spring, extractor rod spring, extractor bolt spring, or cylinder stop spring all make your revolver stop revolving. Sometimes springs fail from normal wear. More often they break because owners try to improve the trigger pull. Lighter springs feel better when you pull the trigger, but they're not robust enough for the job. They break prematurely. Here's what revolver owners need to know. Inspect springs regularly. Replace them at appropriate intervals with OEM or high-quality aftermarket springs. Stop messing with them trying to get a better trigger. Use springs of appropriate power for the task. Most broken firing pins happen during dry fire, not live fire. The repeated impact without the cushion of a primer damages the part. Use snap caps if you dry fire regularly. Truth number 5. Not all ammunition works. Number 5 destroys another common belief. Revolvers will shoot any ammunition. False. High primers jam cylinder rotation. Unburned powder leaves flakes in the barrel and cylinder. These flakes get under the extractor star and keep it from retracting properly. Wrong ammunition causes malfunctions just like in semi-autos. One shooter reported their .22 revolver binding up after fewer than 100 rounds with lead ammunition. They had to clean lead buildup from the forcing cone to get it working again. Another shooter found unburned powder under the extractor star, preventing the cylinder from closing. Bullet diameter matters too. If your bullets are undersized for your cylinder throats, you get lead shaving. If they're oversized, you get excessive pressure. The ammunition must match your specific gun. Test your defensive ammunition in your specific revolver. Don't assume it will work because it's from a reputable manufacturer. Confirm it. Truth number 4. Colt timing is different. Truth number 4 is specifically for Colt owners. Your gun times differently than others. Colt revolvers use a different timing system than Smith & Wesson or Ruger. The hand that rotates the cylinder is designed as a wear part. Colts were intended to have the hand repaired or replaced as part of standard maintenance. Years ago, everyone understood this. Today, people think Colts are weak because they don't know about Colt maintenance. Colt timing allows the cylinder to rotate slightly when you pull the trigger. A Colt that isn't quite locked when you cock the hammer, but locks after you pull the trigger all the way, is acceptable. This is normal for the design. The Python specifically needs more care because timing is absolutely critical. Smith & Wessons and Rugers can be out of adjustment quite a bit and still function. Colts can't. They need precise timing or they don't work well at all. Many timing problems with Colts come from people trying to see how fast they can stroke the action. That accelerated wear breaks things. Treat your Colt properly. It will last for years before needing work. Truth number 3. End shake causes problems. Number 3 introduces a term most owners never heard. End shake. End shake is forward and backward movement of the cylinder. Some movement is normal. Too much causes accuracy problems and malfunctions. The cylinder needs to lock in the same position every time to maintain proper alignment with the barrel. Excessive end shake comes from the crane or yoke being shortened through peening. The part that holds the cylinder to the frame wears down. This creates play. When the cylinder moves too much, the barrel-to-cylinder gap becomes inconsistent. Timing gets affected. The gun stops shooting accurately. You check end shake by trying to push the cylinder forward and backward with the action closed. A little movement is fine. If you can move it noticeably, you have excessive end shake. This requires professional repair. Usually shims are installed to take up the slack. Don't ignore end shake. It only gets worse with continued shooting. Fix it early before it damages other parts. Truth number 2. Top strap cutting is normal. Truth number 2 looks scary but usually isn't dangerous. Flame cutting on the top strap. Many revolvers develop a groove cut into the top strap above the barrel. This happens from concentrated gas jets eroding the metal. It looks terrible. Owners panic thinking their gun is destroying itself. Here's the reality. Most cases are self-limiting. The cut only goes so deep then stops as the jet loses energy. It looks ugly but is seldom structural on mainstream .357 and .44 Magnum guns with normal ammunition. Light, fast Magnum loads seem to encourage it more, especially 110 to 125 grain .357 Magnum screamers. The fix? Don't chase it with files. Change loads if it bothers you. Ensure timing is correct. Keep shooting. The gun will be fine. This is one of those things that looks worse than it actually is. If you see flame cutting appearing, just monitor it. As long as it stops deepening after a certain point, you're okay. Truth number 1. Modern revolvers have transfer bars. And finally, truth number 1. Your revolver won't fire if you drop it, but not for the reason you think. The myth says revolvers are safe because the hammer rests on an empty chamber. That's outdated information from single-action revolvers of the 1800s. Modern revolvers use a completely different system. Modern revolvers have a transfer bar lever that keeps the hammer off the firing pin. The bar only moves into position when you pull the trigger all the way back. Without the trigger being pulled, the hammer physically cannot reach the firing pin, even if you drop the gun, even if you hit the hammer with a sledgehammer. This means you can safely carry a modern revolver with all chambers loaded. You don't need to leave one empty under the hammer. That's a relic from Colt single-action armies and other older designs. Your modern Smith & Wesson, Ruger, or Taurus doesn't need it. Semi-automatics use a firing pin block for the same purpose. Modern guns of all types have drop safety mechanisms. The empty chamber advice is 70 years out of date. Stop following it. There you have it. 12 truths about revolvers that most owners never learn. Revolvers do malfunction. The cylinder gap is dangerous if ignored. Timing problems are real and need professional repair. Lead shaving signals trouble. The gap reduces velocity. Screws loosen. Springs break. Some ammo simply does not work. Colt timing is different. End shake causes issues. Top strap cutting is usually harmless, and modern revolvers use transfer bars. These myths survive because movies make revolvers look indestructible. Gun shop stories go unchallenged, and many owners never push their guns hard enough to see problems. But knowing the truth makes you safer and smarter. You maintain your revolver correctly. You spot issues early. You avoid dangerous habits. Revolvers are excellent firearms, simple, reliable, and powerful. But they are still machines. Respect them, maintain them, understand them. The next time someone says revolvers never jam, you'll know better. Safe shooting starts with real knowledge. Now you have it.